Hello friends and my dear students. Today we are going to discuss about consumer behavior, a part of marketing management course. There is a famous saying, to be a good bullfighter, one has to think like the bull. Here the bull is the consumer and fighter is the marketer. Therefore, consumer behavior from the marketer's perspective is to understand, predict and influence the consumer. According to Mothersbaugh and Hawkins, consumer behavior is the study of individuals, groups, or organizations and the processes they use to select, secure, use, and dispose of products, services, experiences, or ideas to satisfy needs and the impacts that these processes have on the consumer and society. In this session, we will cover the following aspects of consumer behavior. Number 1, meaning and importance. Number 2, factors influencing consumer decision-making process. Number 3, relationship between sales and consumer behavior process. Number 4, few models of consumer behavior. Number 5, development of consumer behavior. And number 6, consumer research. Let's start with meaning and importance of consumer behavior. It is a decision-making process and physical activity individuals or organizations engage in when evaluating, acquiring, using, or disposing of goods and services. As for example, IKEA buys furniture from suppliers to export worldwide. Consumers buy products from retail stores like DMart, Big Bazaar, Star Bazaar, more, and so on. The process of buying behavior in case of consumer or B2C is need or problem recognition, information search, evaluation of alternatives, selection, buying, using, and disposing. The business decision making process or B2B buying behavior follows problem recognition, product specification, supplier search, purchase decision, performance evaluation, and feedback prior to next purchase. Decision making unit or DMU participants in a buying behavior includes initiator, influencer, decider, buyer, user, and gatekeepers. Consumer purchasing scenarios or types of decisions or problems can be routine problem solving, limited problem solving, and extended problem solving. Role of advertising to create awareness, comprehension, conviction, and action among consumers really matters. As for example, decisions in terms of what type of toothpaste consumers buy, what brand do they prefer, why do they buy, where do they buy it, how often do they buy it. Next is factors influencing consumer decision making. Primarily, it is psychological influences which includes motivation, personality, perception, learning, values, beliefs, attitudes, and lifestyle. Then comes socio-cultural influences. They are personal influence, reference groups, family, social class, culture, and subculture. There can be situational influences like purchase task, social surroundings, physical surroundings, temporal effects, and antecedent tasks. Finally, marketing mix influences, which include product, price, promotion, and place. There is a strong relationship between sales and consumer behavior process, as stated by Gold 2012. There is a customer journey and sales process. When the customer is having a need or requirement, sales job is to find. When the customer is searching for the product or service, salespeople should engage him or her. When the customer is busy in evaluating or examining options to buy a product or service, sales should prove the worth of a product or service. When the customer is making a decision or a commitment, salespeople should be ready to handle any objection or adopt a winning strategy. Finally, as the customers review their experiences of using a product or availing a service, salesperson should build relationship, add value leading to customer satisfaction, thereby retain or keep the customer. There are different models of consumer behavior like Maslow's theory of motivation, expectancy, value model, but we will discuss only three models here. Number one, factors affecting level of involvement, developed by Laurent and Kapferer 1965. Number two, what can be done to motivate consumers, introduced by Catherine V. Jensen Boyd 2010. Number three, four types of buyer behavior by Assel 1987. Laurent and Kapferer in 1965 have stated that the degree or level of involvement of a consumer towards a product or service can be influenced by self-image, perceived risk, social factors, and hedonism. Jensen and Boyd 2010 has introduced a model of consumer motivation considering research to target audience, positive reinforcement, and encourage involvement using person factors, object factors, and situational factors. In case of four types of buyer behavior by Assel 1987, it has been explained that complex buyer behavior is impacted by high involvement with product or service and significant difference between brands. Variety-seeking behavior is the outcome of high involvement with product or service and significant difference between brands. Dissonance-reducing buyer behavior is related to high involvement with product or service but little difference between brand. And finally, habitual buyer behavior connects with low involvement product or service having little difference between brands. Next is development of consumer behavior. Study of consumer behavior involves psychology, the study of individuals, sociology, the study of groups, sociopsychology, study of how persons are influenced by groups, cultural anthropology, the influence of the culture and society on the individual, and last but not the least, economics, relationship between demand and supply in the flow of marketing activity. The final most important aspect is consumer research. There are two types of reasons to study consumer behavior by a marketer. Number one, to determine as why consumers made the purchase decisions. Number two, to understand how consumers would react to promotional messages. In general, consumer behavior researchers are namely interprevists and positivists. Interprevists believe in qualitative research techniques, whereas positivists are used to quantitative research techniques. Positivists adopt methods of experimenting through observation and survey techniques, whereas interprevists apply ethnography, semiotics, and in-depth interviews. To sum up our discussion today, consumer is becoming increasingly difficult to understand, much less predictable than ever before. Demographics are no longer the only determinant to influence consumer behavior. Life stage is also less relevant. Lifestyle is more idiosyncratic. Buyer behavior is now more complex. The multidimensional consumer will shop in different ways based on a range of considerations that trigger store choice, both online and offline, and purchase decisions. The students are expected to do an assignment at the end of this session depending on the understanding of consumer behavior. Let's consider buying an automobile from total set to decision. In the total set, brand names are Honda, Lexus, Porsche, Kia, Ford, Toyota, Volkswagen, Renault, and Nissan. From this, we need to select brands for awareness set, followed by considerations set, choice set, and decision. Based on Laurent and Kapferer 1965 model on factors influencing level of involvement of a buyer or consumer, namely self-image, perceived risk, social factors, and hedonism. Book for reference is Consumer Behavior Building Marketing Strategy by Mothersbaugh and Hawkins. Thank you. Hope you have enjoyed the session